The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
Hello, I'm Susan Brender. Today I have a very, very interesting show, and I'll say it without any hesitation because today I have Dr. Mei-Zeng, who is an MD and an obstetrician gynecologist practicing for 23 years in Florida. The next guest that Dr. Zeng wanted us to have on the show, and we're so pleased that he did come on, his name is Seth Yeboah. Now, there's a lot of words and a lot of things that he does, but let me just tell you a little bit. He delivers targeted pharmacological assistance, medical ventilation support, and other interventions during routine and complex surgeries. I want to welcome to the show Dr. Mei-Zeng and Mr. Seth Yeboah. And I want to start with you, Dr. Zeng. Dr. Zeng, we have been dealing with this pandemic now for how long? Months and months.
Yes.
Right? And
yes,
it's been a real problem for people in many different ways. I would like you to talk a little bit about it because you have talked about it before, but today you want to talk about depression and anxiety as a result of what the pandemic has done to our population.
Thank you, Susan, for having me back. This pandemic has really escalated more than we'll ever know. And nowadays, in the world, the people who are tested positive is 4.7 million. In the US, it's 1.5 million. And in Florida, it's 44,000. The death rate in the world is 300,000. In the US, it's 89.5 thousand, and in Florida is close to 2,000. So what we're facing now is epidemic, and we are, I think people go through a lot of panic episodes, such as buying the water, the toilet paper, and stock up meat, produce, things like that. And I know a lot of people simply just stay home and keep their kids home, and the school is out. So a lot of my patients, not only do they have to work from home, also they have to monitor their kids and making sure they're studying. And these produces significant stress on the family life, on the kids. One of my patients and my friend, she kept 2 kids at home for 2 months without letting them out. And clearly the kids are very, the older kids, the teenager gets depressed. She shut off from her connections to her friends, and spend a lot of time on the internet. The little kid just playing games, but these are not productive. So we need to think about how we're going to survive the coronavirus, number one. Number two, also, I might add, is that we're opening up in Palm Beach County, phase 1, and pretty soon Broward and Miami-Dade County. So these are the things we really have to be cautious about. We have to prevent the second wave of coronavirus upswing.
That kind of makes me think, how you say that we have to try to prevent a second wave. Now, don't you think that as opposed to other viruses like the flu that has been going on for a long time, one of the most important things is that they come up with a cure. Without that cure, people can't stay in their houses forever. The economy is going to be destroyed. So What I want to know is, are they close from your standpoint? Have you discussed this with other doctors? And is there any solution that they're coming up with in the very near future?
I do not think there is a cure. And also, there are people, actually, several countries are actually vying for find out the vaccine for common people and to prevent us from getting it. But that could be next year. I think China is producing a vaccine. Some people are testing it, but to convince people to take the vaccine takes a lot of convincing. And I have patients that would not give their kids vaccines for measles, mumps, and rubella, or HPV vaccine, and for vaccine for coronavirus, it takes a lot of convincing. But the healthcare workers, we really need to convince ourselves, maybe when the vaccines are available, that we need to take it. I'm going to pass the floor to Seth, who is a nurse anesthetist, CRNA, right? And he will tell you firsthand what it means to contract coronavirus. Seth?
Thank you, Susan, for this opportunity. I will touch on a few things that you just mentioned. One, depression, which I did experience that, and also something that Dr. Zeng talked about, which is convincing people to take a vaccine, no matter what country it's produced in, due to us being humans and our predisposed beliefs on injecting, in this case, will be a form of a dead virus in your body, for your body to then produce antibodies to fight. Now, I contracted coronavirus by working on patients that had coronavirus. Unfortunately, at that time, we were not equipped like we are now to deal with it. It was a new pandemic that was going around. We didn't have the appropriate testing to be able to tell if a patient has it or not, as we do now. Hospital that I work for, when patients come in for surgery, since we are open and doing elective surgery, all the patients are tested. That was not the case in the beginning. Myself and Dr. Zeng, we are all healthcare providers. We choose to do this. It has nothing to do with doing it for a living. This is what we like doing. So even though we're going through that, we are not going to be like, okay, I have this patient, I'm not going to touch the patient because the patient has coronavirus. Ethically, you will not, most of us will not be able to sleep if we know that we could have helped the patient live and we just watch the patient not have the surgery and die or expire. We normally go out of ourselves to do what we have to do. So luckily for me, my wife is a nurse, and we had prepared the house for coronavirus because we talked about this and we kind of figured that one of us will have it. So most of the rooms were in the house had materials in the house that we thought we could combat it with. In terms of dehydration, IVs, fluids, we had water, we have all the vitamins, things to boost your immune system up in terms of zinc, iodine, we had various injections, we had fruits and vegetables that help. We stocked up on that. And we also went ahead and put Pedialyte because of the electrolyte that we knew we'll be losing. So we had prepared for that. I was at home and I woke up from sweat. My wife was working. She was working a third shift. That's her shift. She works the third shift, 7 to 7 in the morning, 12-hour shifts. I come home. I'd worked on a patient that I suspected had it. We did a chest X-ray and I saw the whole pleura was full of, instead of it having a white film, because on extubation, the patient had a laryngeal spasm, which I broke it. And then taking the patient to PACU, the patient started developing a stridor. And I was like, it can happen, but this is not normal. Prior to taking the patient for surgery, the patient was apprehensive in terms of being truthful, which we've interviewed numerous patients, so we could tell when you're lying. They probably think that, we can't tell about it. We can tell when they're lying about something. In this case, I think the patient was from a different country and thought we might not do the surgery, so was not forthright with all the information. I was kind of back and forth in my judgment, like, what is he hiding from me? Because he was wearing a mask, and we put masks on all patients in the beginning, but like I said, we didn't have testing to test in the beginning. That was just one of the various patients I touched that week. All of them came positive. I had gotten exposed to by other workers that had it. So I had a constant blast of different, I would say, strains, because what I went through, I didn't believe it could be just one strain. I believe it was different strains because I got very sick, and I'll get to that. To fast forward, I woke up from a splitting headache. It was just a headache that I've not experienced before. And I found I was kind of like having chills. I turned around and my pillow was wet. So I was like, God, I hope it's not this. I went quickly, took the temperature, which, every room had one. I took a temperature, and then I checked my temperature. And at that time, I was running a temperature of 107, about 3 to 5 times in an hour. And then I did the average, and it was not averaging less than 101.5. So immediately I knew something was wrong. I was not coughing then initially. I just had a splitting headache and fever that you could feel hot. You could feel your body was hot. My mother is visiting from Africa, and she's a geriatric. She's 74 years old. I quickly went to my mother's room and told her not to come to my room, and that I think I probably am catching the virus, and we'll find out later in the morning, and that she should start drinking some Pedialyte orange juice and take vitamins and zinc to boost her immune system. I knocked on my daughter's door. She was fast asleep, about 11 something. I did not go in, stood at the door, told her the same. Take zinc, drink some vitamin juice, and then take some vitamin pills, and then drink some Pedialyte and zinc. And I went back to my room. I called my wife and I said, I do have a virus, and we'll see. So that was just headaches and then fever. I tried to shrug it off, and I was going to try to sleep. It took me a while to get the headache off. I took some Tylenol to help with the fever. It didn't break, but I was just lying down there, and I was more of hoping it's not that, so I could get up and go to work. I was able to sleep. On sleeping, I woke up around 5:30, and it was again from my headaches were like nonstop, just continuous. This time, I was feeling very weak, and I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom. So I was starting with the diarrhea. So I made it to the bathroom, and I had like diarrhea instantly, and I was like, I definitely do have it. So now I decided not to get out of the room. Obviously, I knew I could spread it around, waited for my wife to get home. She, on her way home, had passed by the store, bought lemons, ginger, tangerine, came home and started making concoctions. The idea was to try to flush the system into my GI tract, which was to put in as much heat as I could in my body that my body was producing safely. That was the idea. So to do that, she was making warm fluids. So we're drinking warm fluids, which consists of a concentrated mix of ginger, tangerine, pineapple, and lemon. She was bringing that constantly. I would say every 2-3 hours, she would knock on the door, put it down, and turn around, and I had to, or knock on the door, push it through the door, and turn around and go. So even when I didn't want to drink it, or I didn't have the strength to drink it, it was coming constant. It got to a point that I was getting worried about my intake and my output, because I was constantly going to the bathroom to pee, and the diarrhea was going on. Well, during this period of time, I had started developing fatigue and extreme muscle weakness, which I didn't know what was going on. But I immediately called my work and said, I think this is going on. I'm feeling very sick. And they told me that they've had a couple of exposures with other workers who worked on that day, that said day that I was talking about. And in my case, some of the patients that I previously worked on had started turning positive. So to make it a little bit more shorter, we kept on with the routine. Cough started coming on around my third day, and the cough was it was dry in the beginning, and in a couple of hours I was coughing out phlegm. The phlegm was not thick; it was clear phlegm, and I would cough into a bottle, 8 ounce bottle. As soon as I started seeing the phlegm, I wanted to be able to log in how much fluid I was coughing out of my system to wonder if my lungs were becoming fibrotic or was just developing a pneumonia. There were certain days that I could fill up a bottle or an 8 ounce bottle and then start to about 3/4 of the next bottle, and that would be a whole day. The coronavirus comes to you at night. It normally is not in the daytime. You wake up feeling a little bit energetic, and by 10, 11 o'clock, so if you know how you're feeling, you're like, I feel great, but you feel weak but great. By 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the virus starts kicking in. At night, it kicks in on full gear, relentless to about 2, 3 a.m. before you sleep. Now, in terms of treatment, we initially started doing it's called planAdministered, which I got by FedEx from my parents, from my dad back home. And I started taking that. In a couple of days, we had heard that we could start using the hydroxychloroquine. We did have the EKG strips at home, so I could be able to check to see if I was increasing my QTs, which I did not. I was running serious tachycardia. I could feel my heart beating. To me, I was wondering whether the tachycardia was coming from the disease itself or me taking the hydroxychloroquine, which was going to turn into, long QT or end up with todetermine, or if it was because I was behind on my fluids. That's why I was, running the tachycardia, because, I was constantly dry from expelling so much fluids and the diarrhea. The diarrhea lasted about 6 days and then stopped. Before the diarrhea was stopping, I started with having a shortness of breath. My wife again was ahead of it and had the house, prepared. So she had incentive spirometer. I was ordering batromium bromide, which had, a little bit of albuterol and duanette mix. So that was going on. I was doing the nebulizer. I was doing a incentive spirometer to keep my lung capacity up. Meanwhile, I was constantly monitoring my O2 sats, which would be my oxygen saturation levels, to make sure that it never comes below 90%. The worst time I had a bad reading was about 89%. It never went down past 89%. For me to go to the OR to visit the emergency room, I wanted my to have a constant reading of 85%. And that's when I would have felt the need to go. It's because of what I do for a living. I felt, I could combat this around 90%. That the normal room air should be anywhere from 98% to about 100%. That's for a healthy young guy like me. I'm 46 years old. So that's what we're looking at with our lung capacities. With mine being around 90 to 95%, that was fine with the disease because I couldn't breathe. The only way you could breathe better is lying prone. But remember, you're lying prone and you're coughing all the time, lying prone, and you still can breathe a little better. But sitting up, lying on supine, you couldn't breathe. Lying lateral, you couldn't breathe at all. So I don't know how to describe it, but it will be like you putting a plastic bag over your head and closing the whole thing, and it feels like somebody's stroking you. So you couple all the symptoms that you're going through, plus that it was the most horrible experience I've ever been through for that 14 days.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Our audience needs to really, truly understand the situation that is happening right now. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment because needless to say, there are a lot of people who think, and I'm one of them, I'll be honest with you, that think that it's been, the media has scared people to death, that this has been politicized, that this virus is a weird one, but we don't have to do the things that you talked about. Now, your experience really makes me think that it is really a real tragedy. Now, I want our audience, if you could do this, this would be great. Give them the steps, okay? Just simple steps to explain how they can, or what they should be doing to protect themselves. Could you do that for us, if you will?
Yes, ma'am. So, Susan, I'll start by saying I'm originally from Africa, Ghana, and I grew up there, till about 20 years. When I came here, I went to Arkansas State beginning, and I've gone through different careers in the health field. In Africa, I've gone through malaria. I went to anesthesia school in Puerto Rico. So I had the dengue disease. I still had typhoid in Africa. What I want to tell you is this is the worst thing somebody can play with and all of a sudden get comfortable. There's only two ways that you come out of this. You die, or you get the disease and you are lucky enough to experience it and come out of it. That's the only two ways. Now, you should not think this is going anywhere because this is going to be the new norm that we have to deal with. This is a terrible disease. This is painful. It's depressing because remember, as human beings and as Americans living here, we are not used to being. I lived in New York for about 23 years before moving to Florida. I'm 46. In Florida, you get to go out. In New York, they probably could have dealt with it better because they know how to stay indoors in terms of when the weather changes and it's cold. Especially if you live in Florida, you're used to going out, or you live in another state that is sunny, you're used to being outside. Being in a room alone with this disease will start making you think of killing yourself. I was there. You get very depressed and you are suffering. You have to follow the guidelines that is being given. This thing has turned, unfortunately, into a political thing. It's a health crisis. It has nothing to do with politics. We do understand that we have a middle part, which is the economy, which drives people to be able to provide for their families. It's a fine line to cross. You can't have an economy if the people are sick and dying. So it's a fine line to cross. But there's one thing we in the health field can tell you. It's very contagious. You can catch it easily. I could tell you that I think it's from peeping a patient one time, or maybe just, because I had a mask on and maybe it was not tied on, or I don't know. But I could tell you that it's so contagious so fast that if you don't do the right things, that you just follow the guidelines, social distance and help. Between this time till they find a vaccine, till you decide whether you are going to take the vaccine or not, until the whole world becomes a little bit immune to it in terms of like a herd mentality, herd immunity going on. Between this time and then, it's simple. You go to work, you practice safe social distancing. Your PPEs on, you cover your face and your mouth. You try as possible not to be touching your face and touching things, touching your mouth. Wear gloves as possible, or just make your own hand sanitizer. Aloe vera, 99% alcohol. It's easy. You get it in any Walmart, any ShopRite, any Walgreens, any of these departmental stores. You can make your own. So you constantly have some. You constantly, putting it on your hands, because the whole thing is about your hands. If you could afford to wear long sleeves for a while, put it on. The aerosol. If it touches your body or your face or your hands, it's contact spread. Opening back the country, it's a political thing, like I'm saying, but I think what we are lacking in America is education. Countries that are beating this, that had a bad outcome in the beginning, what they did was education, not politics. We have made it into a political thing right now. I don't know if it's because it's an election year or whatever it is, but that is driving that Americans are not educated well enough or do not believe that this is highly contagious and can kill you because they are not around people dying. We should hope this second wave doesn't become something that we can take care of in terms of the healthcare facilities. But I would leave it at that. We have to be very careful. I don't talk to anybody that has had it. Very few people tell you what's now. It's very bad.
Seth, the people who are most, shall we say, people with compromised systems, like people with diabetes and with heart disease and various other diseases, are they prone to this much more than anybody else? And have you seen patients? Are there any young people who are contacting it? And if so, what should they do? I mean, young people, go ahead. I'm sorry. Tell us, tell our audience what you think.
This is a disease that has no respecter of age. The most vulnerable people is, of course, when you have any underlying disease, but it does not spare you because you are young. That's a myth. I do not have any underlying disease. Yes, I'm in more contact with people that are sick, people that had it, and I was working on them. But it's the same thing if you had a friend or close family friend or co-worker, or you were just walking in the park and somebody just walked past you and coughed or sneezed so loud, and unfortunate for you, you passed through that whole film and you just pulled it all into you. Same thing. Okay, as soon as it gets into you, it's in you, and your body has to fight it or you die. Young people can get it as much as old people. I've had a couple of friends die from it that were young. I've had stories of people telling me people dying from different kinds of countries that I knew already. Or it's not a respecter of age. You have to treat it like you are going to get it. Only the people that are more vulnerable are obviously of the age of 65 and up, underlying comorbidities, but young people can get it. What we've seen is children being able to get it for some reason and not having the same effect as adults, and have like more or less careers walking around with it. And that's where you get your infection, because maybe your kid can get it walking around and you get it. A co-worker of mine got it. He was in the ICU. He gave it to his wife. He ended up in the ICU. His wife ended up in the emergency room, also in the ICU. But they had a nephew in the house who was just 17 years old that didn't show any signs. Their neighbor had a kid that was 27 years old that had it and died. So you cannot, those are few instances that happen, but you don't want it to be you. So you have to do what you have to do not to get it. Yeah.
Dr. Zeng, we have a little bit of time, just a very little bit, but I would like you to address the situation. I just want to mention to our audience that Dr. Zeng also uses a lot of alternative medicine in her practice. And you might want to talk a little bit about whether those alternatives can also make a difference in the way people are feeling psychologically. So Dr. Zeng, jump right in.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. I have a very interesting comment about Seth's presentation about his symptoms. Seth, you're a hero. I want to commend you for what you've done for this community, for the hospital, for our patients. What you just mentioned earlier about that the disease started kicking in the afternoon and throughout the night until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's our human circadian, which is, your circadian is how you rise with the sun and how your system, your health system goes down with the sun. And Chinese medicine actually take advantage of that. Most of the time that your immune system goes down with the sunset, and they started coming up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Being obstetrician, I know that most of the babies deliver at 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. Not, it's hard for us, but that's where our health started coming out, and that's when the baby comes out. And another thing is that we have to really, now our county, our state is opening up phase 1. We have to follow the instructions. We have to keep the distance from each other 6 feet. One of the things Seth mentioned, that he was taking hydroxychloroquine and zinc, and the new study has shown that these hydroxychloroquine is called ionophores, which is what it does is that it carries the ions through the membrane and then delivered to the human system. So hydroxychloroquine, the fact that a lot of diabetes have this disease, hypertension, they seem to be low on zinc. And the new study on the it's MedRxiv by Yale and British Medical Journal. It talk about hydroxychloroquine with azithromycin and zinc will help patients who's newly affected. As soon as the disease hit these patients, you take this and it will prevent them going down like what Seth did. This is a very important. Take the zinc, and garlic is a big thing for our patients, Chinese patients from Wuhan. Cut down the garlic, boil with water, honey, and drink twice a day. Decrease the exposure to the disease as well as the severity of the disease.
Yeah. Dr. Zeng, have you seen anybody in your practice who's got it besides Seth? Any pregnant women have gotten it?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, thank God for that. Now, I want to thank you both, Dr. Zeng and Seth Yeboah, for being on the Susan Brender Show. But before we end, is there any one of you who would like to have the last word? There must be something that you really want to end the show on. You'd like to say something.
Well, I'll let Dr. Zeng go first since she's my superior, and then I'll go last.
No, I'm not your superior. We're colleagues. What I'm saying is that people, when we go into phase 1, phase 2, please be careful. Keep your distance, wash your hands frequently. And, if you're in health professionals, I tell everybody, take off your clothes at the door, including your shoes, and change your home attire so you don't bring the aerosols and things into the household. Protect yourself and don't take light of it, and don't get involved with protect yourself and your family. Go ahead, Seth.
I'll add on to this is about the same thing that Zeng just told us. I'll go first for our health professionals. Please take all your clothes off. Do not bring it into the house. It's been shown that it can stay on fabric. My wife has a hamper outside. We dump all our clothes outside and walk in. And then also, if you can do an inhalation, sit down, have a bucket of hot water, and then breathe that in through your nose. Even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, you're sending heat into your body. I did take azithromycin, I forgot to mention that, and I was taking aspirin after because I felt like I had clots in my legs because my legs started hurting me. And to find out that I had clots because of the disease. The disease attacks the iron, the heme in your body, so you can start clotting up. It has a clotting factor problem. So I'm still on the aspirin. Please practice the social distancing. Please, this is not the time to jump into everything. Me personally, until next year, for me, it is work, home. If we want to do something, it's family-wise. No partying, no clubbing, no unnecessary engagements with friends and family. This is not the time. They can give it to you. You can give it to people. You practice social distancing. That's it. Wash your hands. Be safe out there, because this second time is what we are scared of. We are going to think we beat this and it's okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Zeng, and thank you, Seth, again for being on the Susan Brender Show. You gave our audience a lot of information and education about this virus that we're dealing with right now. And, at some point, you got to come back, and maybe at that time, things will have settled down, and you can talk about the ways in which people dealt with it to really prevent them from getting it. So thank you. Bye now.
Thank you very much, Susan. Thanks, Seth. Thank you very much. Bye, Seth.
Hi, this is Christina Flack. I am the CEO and founder of Pretty Girl Makeup and a celebrity makeup artist. We are all trying our best to find our new normal, while at the same time looking for something fun and productive to do during the stay-at-home order. I'm sure each and every one of you have cleaned out your closets, your garage, your house, and your drawers are perfectly organized. So now what do we do? Well, each day I'm urging you to try to do something that you normally don't have time to do. I must admit, I'm used to going a million miles an hour as a makeup artist, and a mom, and the CEO of my company. But a few things that I've been doing that I think are really great are organizing my makeup drawer. I have cleaned my makeup brushes with warm water and shampoo and conditioner, let them dry out. I am displaying them in a pretty little vase. And I'm also going through that makeup drawer and clearing out all of those samples that have been piling up for years and years. What I'm doing is, number one, use the ones that I love, and the ones that I don't know that I'll be able to use or I feel like sharing, I'm putting in a little makeup bag and dropping them off at a friend's house to have a little spa day that they can use while they are home during the shut-in. Another idea is to try a meditation app. It's really important during this time to have a little time to just calm and soothe your mind. There's some amazing ones online. I love Calm, and there's another one called Breathe that I think is fantastic as well. If you would like to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, my company is called Pretty Girl Makeup. And if you would like to look at my portfolio, it is Christina Flack Makeup. I am offering a 25% discount code for the Susan Brender Show, and the discount code is Susan Brender. Thank you. I wish you and your family health and happiness during this difficult time.